Hello and welcome to Provoking Tech. I'm Zach, and in this episode of Tech Tips, I'm going to be going over LiquidSky's cloud gaming platform. So, what LiquidSky is trying to do is make a highly portable system or a platform that will let you play games on Android, iOS, as well as your PC. So, this kind of gets past the thing of having to buy a dedicated gaming computer to play high end games. Uh, what I've been testing so far for about a month is showing me that it's highly promising. It has some flaws now, but it is still in beta. So I'm pretty excited for what it's going to do. It kind of captures one of the things I'm really liking about the Nintendo Switch is the fact that you can have a highly portable gaming device that you can easily grab to a friend's house without all the hassle of like bringing your gaming desktops uh, to your friend's house to do LAN parties and stuff like that. So if it works as intended in when it's actually fully ready, um, it'll be pretty awesome. So let's go ahead and get started with some testing. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to start by just highlighting a couple of the features that they have on their website. So the first thing I wanted to call out was the ultra low latency. I can definitely verify this. It's very good. I use RDP on almost a daily basis, and this is definitely better than that on at least from my experience. So that they've nailed, and this is vital for gaming. Very, very vital. Lightning fast internet speeds. I can definitely verify that your downlink is going to be 1 gigabit per second. However, the upload speeds, it seems to be about a tenth of that at 100 megabit per second. However, that is still very good. So you can kind of equate to your performance roughly to kind of what your YouTube performance is. Your latency is going to be another big thing that's going to take effect because gaming, even if it's not something that's Twitch, is still going to be latency is going to be very important because your actions you do on your mouse or your joystick controller are going to translate to the game world, and if it's just off synced, it's going to be really weird unless you're just playing a game kind of like Risk or something like that, where latency really just doesn't matter. And at a certain point, that's even going to matter because you're going to move your mouse and you'll be overshooting and everything like that. So latency is important, but the actual just the streaming quality, you don't use a lot of upstream at all, and your downstream it's pretty comparable to streaming a 1080p YouTube. So they have pretty good compression. It's pretty equal to the actual data usage in that regards. So beyond that, there is a Mac and Linux support, so you can run on Windows, Mac, and Linux. There's an Android app, and I really thought there was a iOS app, but I could be wrong. So let's go ahead and jump right into the pricing. So there's 3 tiers. You can also request the beta access. I sat in this queue for like a month and never got in, so I just gave up. There's the pay as you go, which is something I highly don't recommend because you only get 100 gigabytes of storage, and it's actually pretty expensive. For what would that be 30 hours? For 30 hours, you could go ahead and get the gamer bundle. You're gonna get 5 times the storage and more than 2.5 times the Sky credits. So it's definitely a good deal. Just go ahead and get upgrade to the gamer bundle. If you're going to be playing a lot, Unlimited might be for you, but keep in mind that this has a special thing where you have 30 minutes of inactivity will actually log you out of your service and terminate your session. So that's something very important to keep in mind. What I did with the gamer bundle is I set it so that the timeouts don't kick in effect. The only thing about that is make sure you always terminate it when you want to. Otherwise, it'll just be using your Sky credits in the background. But that's useful for like setting up Steam to install a bunch of games and walk away, go eat dinner, watch a movie or whatever, and you don't have to sit there and be clicking on the screen every once in a while. But I mainly use the no timeout thing for a couple of things for work, which I'll get to in a later video. Another thing is your storage. I would really love a terabyte of storage. I'd pay an extra $5 a month or something like that for a big upgrade for storage, and possibly even beyond the 1 terabyte of storage. But you can't upgrade storage at all. So it's kind of a balancing act of how much storage you need and stuff like that. But right now I'm on the gamer tier, and that's what I continue to plan on, especially for the account I'm using at work. It'll probably always be on the gamer tier simply because of the no forced timeouts. So that's pretty much it on their website. And let's go ahead and jump in. I've logged in already, and this is the main screen you see after the login screen. You can see how much storage space you have left on your server, as well as your Sky credits remaining. So it'll utilize or use a Sky credit, and then you'll actually get every single minute of that. So if you log out with 32 minutes left from your last Sky credit you redeemed, next time you log in, you'll have 32 minutes left in that one before it'll redeem the next one. So that's very good system that they have set up, at least in that manner. You can see which server that you're set up to. So the Dallas, Texas one is the one that has the best latency to me. And this is something that, as they roll out more data centers, is going to be the thing that's going to be vital, because it's something that you can't improve. You could always, you can't really improve your internet speeds, because that's highly dependent on ISPs. But it doesn't take a ton. But the latency is going to be key just to having a decent performance at all. You can always turn down the 720p if you're not having the best bandwidth at the moment, or you're running off of a mobile hotspot or something along those lines, and you don't have a very reliable connection or something along. So you can always turn down your resolution, but if you don't have that base latency, if that base latency is not low enough, it's going to make your experience less than desirable or completely unplayable. They have a good selection of data centers right now, and I'm sure they're working on continuing to roll out more data centers in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and start this, and then you can see that you can run an ultra and high. This has I've done a little bit of ultra, hardly at all, just because it uses 2 Sky credits, and what I've been playing with and testing hasn't needed that extra performance, to be honest. I do know that with the high, you get 3 logical processing cores, and with the ultra, you get 7, and these are 2.6 gigahertz Xeon cores. All right, so I have launched the remote computer and pulled up a couple things real quick just to kind of go over some of the hardware. So you can see that it's running Windows Server 2012 R2 Data Center, which is just essentially the server version of the 2012 version of Windows, which it correlates to the Windows 8 launch. So you'll be if you hit the Windows button, you'll get this kind of familiar screen if you're still running Windows 8. So you'll kind of be used to that. If you're running 10, I kind of like the UI of 10, but they don't have the 2016 running on their system yet. Beyond that, you can see they get the Intel Xeon E5 2690 version 4 at 2.6 gigahertz with slightly over 8 gigabytes of RAM for some reason. And you can kind of just see the display adapter is an NVIDIA Grid K280Q. From what I've tested, I can't notice any difference on that when you run to Ultra. The only thing is you'll notice you'll have 7 logical processors here, as opposed to just 3 virtual processors that you have right now. So that's a big change between the Ultra and the high performance that I'm running right now. I'll do benchmarks. I don't know how the graphics scale between the two, so that'll be something that the benchmark should tell pretty good. All right, so I have loaded 3D Mark, and I'm getting ready to test that. I actually noticed that the Firestrike actually said my hardware might not be compatible, and your computer doesn't have enough VRAM. Doing a little bit more analysis and digging a little deeper, I actually found out the NVIDIA Grid GPU is only actually has included a 1 gigabyte of VRAM. So that's kind of worrying. Don't know exactly how that's going to perform in higher end games such as Battlefield and such, and Gears of War. Both of those games are stuff that I haven't tested yet, because there are 2 issues with those two. For one, the Windows Store apps do not yet work yet. From what the guys at the support from LiquidSky are telling me, that they are working on hopefully getting support for Windows Store apps in the future, as well as Origin has a bug right now that there is a workaround for, but if you don't want to spend the time on the workaround, it will, once you restart your computer, it'll run perfectly fine, it'll install games and so on and so forth, but the moment you restart, won't allow the LiquidSky computer it'll keep on timing out. It's something to do with some type of conflict. Can't remember exactly what was causing that. But I'm just steering clear of Origin for right now, and just testing with games on my Steam account for now. So I haven't really ran 3D Mark before. I did a test, and it ran through a demo like this for, I don't know, 5 minutes or so, and then it started displaying stats on the bottom middle, and my little bar was covering it up. So I am now rerunning to get to that point, because it seems that you can't just my mouse was locked into the LiquidSky browser, and once I hit escape, it terminated the benchmark rather than simply letting me move to my local computer to just turn off that overlay that I have enabled that has the channel name. So we have to go through this big long thing again as I wait patiently to get to where it actually starts recording. I don't know if this is the physics part, because at the end it gave me a graphics test score and a physics test score. Both of them were 0 because it said this test was canceled by the user. But whenever you finally get past this part, it says it's loading the graphical test 1, and it starts giving you FPS readings. So I'm not sure what this part is actually testing at all, or if it's just a big long Asus advertisement, because I'm using the demo version off of Steam. If that's the case, that is pretty annoying, but it is a free demo, so I can't really complain much. And I'm betting that's the case, that this is a that's how they allow the free demo, is by having this paid product placement by Asus. So the graphics and stuff are pretty good. Definitely passable for a game, and it seems to be pretty smooth. Of course, this is just a video, you're not interacting with it, so you can't really tell the latency and so on and so forth of what is actually going on. But in general, it seems to be decent graphics. Definitely not the best, if not stellar supreme. But this is actually just made for gaming laptops and mid-tier computers, so we might be able to run the Firestrike, but the VRAM thing is kind of worrying. But at the same time, maybe the tech isn't there quite to run the super high resolution ones, and people that are running those are probably going to, for the most part, have a gaming dedicated gaming computer. So this might just be good just for having a supplementary device for your gaming habits. Not something that's going to be your primary gaming platform, but just something that supplements it. Something you can have that's ultra mobile, not something that you will want for the highest fidelity graphics. Looks like we're finally getting to the point where we can start the actual test, and I'm pretty confident now that I've thought about that is probably just the paid ad for running the demo version of the 3D Mark. If the LiquidSky continues to be promising, though, might go ahead and buy this and run tests as it kind of advances through different stages and stuff. So we're having a pretty respectable mid 30s FPS, which is kind of the lower end of what you would want for a game, but definitely not unplayable by any means. Some people swear by 144 hertz high refresh rate monitors. I've never had one. I've always had a 60 FPS or 60 hertz monitor, and I've always been happy with it. But as I know, some people do swear by that higher refresh rate. But if you're that's something where on lines, if you want the best graphics and you want the best refresh rate, and especially if you want in VR, that's something you're definitely gonna have to have local hardware for. Still, we're not at that point where there's just so much data when you're especially doing VR and at the refresh rate that you want VR. We're not ready to have that as a something that could be cloud generated, but it's proven to be that it is somewhat viable just for just general gaming. Maybe just medium settings, maybe on the lower end to high settings, maybe maxing out older games, but something that is definitely viable as a choice for people. And if you don't have a ton of money, $15 a month isn't a lot to spend, and it gets you 80 hours of gaming, which is quite a bit. And with how fast it actually downloads stuff, waiting on Steam to download is not going to be a major, cut into your time that you would rather be playing. So it could be a cheap way to get into gaming. If you compare it to consoles, it could be comparable to console quality. That might be a good test in the future to kind of get a copy of a game on Xbox One and get a copy of it on Steam, and just kind of compare the graphical fidelity I get between both of them, and just see kind of where it actually relates in real life to other platforms out there, other low cost solutions out there, and then it still has that highly portable thing, and that's another thing I will test in the future with a on the go adapter. I have to get one that's USB-C. I have one that's micro USB, but I want to test on my tablet because it's a little bit bigger screen. It's something that is more feasible. Playing a game on your phone just isn't really feasible. A game that's designed for PC on your phone is just not feasible at all. It's just the screen is so small. I mean, you could do it, but I have a 10-inch tablet, and I'd rather test it on there, just because it is something that I would actually possibly utilize it for. And it could be a real world sensor. 10-inch is small for a screen, but it is at the realm where it's not ridiculous to possibly game on a screen that small. So it looks like we might be done. So we got a validation warning for some reason. We got a 7,335 score, a combined score of 8,455. The physics was the lowest end. It didn't do the 96 thread, which maybe that's why the validation warning. Okay, so the graphics card and the graphics driver was not recognized. It's probably because I'm running on the grid. So I can't really submit this, but it got a pretty decent average on graphics with a 38.15 on graphics test 1 and 41.37 on the second test. It wasn't until like you really pumped up the physics score that it started failing, and I guess at the 96 it just completely failed that test. So I'm going to go ahead and in this benchmark here, and I might try to go ahead and launch the other one and just see if it works. All right, so I've just decided to cut out the actual video of this because it was kind of painful to watch at points. On the very last test, it actually averaged around 8.06 frames, which is pretty dang choppy. The first graphics test wasn't horrible. It was actually somewhat smooth at 21 FPS, but it definitely wasn't anything you'd really want to play at, and it just went downhill from there. So it definitely seems like the hardware on the LiquidSky computer is just not at the point where it doesn't do the high fidelity and stuff. But at the very least, we're kind of moving in the right direction. The first test showed that it was possible to play games, maybe not the highest fidelity, maybe on just medium or the lower end high settings, not ultra settings, but to be able to play a game on a cloud computer. We're actually getting towards that point in compute performance where you can have the low enough latency, even on the horrible internet that I have a low enough latency to actually be able to have cloud gaming deemed at least a partial success. And stuff like VR and stuff is just simply not going to be possible with a cloud gaming computer at this point in time. In the future, it might be, but right now we're just not at that stage in time. But we are making progress. It's a lot better than the old OnLive days. I like it a lot better than the GeForce Now example, simply because it is open. You can download whatever you want, and so on and so forth. So I hope you found this video informative and that you liked it and found it interesting. So if you did, make sure you like the video. Liking the video helps the channel as a whole, and I greatly appreciate that feedback. In addition, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for more great projects, as well as continued coverage on the LiquidSky cloud gaming platform with real gaming benchmarks to showcase actual real world games, not just a synthetic benchmark or whatever you want to call the 3D Mark series of tests, and other alternative uses that don't have really any downsides from using them for a month at work now. heavily with Autodesk and Adobe software. Uh, so alternative uses like that, as well as just different ways you can use the cloud gaming platform to kind of advance your computing beyond what you currently have. I do see it as at least getting into general gaming tier for fairly cheap on a month. For $15 a month, you get 80 hours. So I think it's going to be pretty viable for just average gaming at least. You're not going to have the highest fidelity, but I think it is going to be viable. And the continued test that I'll be doing will hopefully give you more feedback and guide you whether this is something that you might want to possibly start subscribing to, or say forget it for another couple years and see where it is down the road. So thanks for watching, guys.